There is not one monolithic definition of a constitutional crisis, but the one thing we can say for certain is that it's not an on-off switch. It's not a binary. It's a position on a spectrum. What we are unequivocally experiencing is a constitutional blitzkrieg. Now, muscle and speed are advantages that the executive branch has. The executive branch inherently and rightly has those advantages. But what we are experiencing is not a blitzkrieg against adversaries, but rather a blitzkrieg on the part of the executive against the rule of law itself.
In the case involving the deportation of the alleged kind of TDA gang members from Venezuela, the court, as of yet, has not made sort of findings of fact about whether the court believes the executive disobeyed the court orders or not. One point that is worth stressing here is the executive has some capacity to change facts on the ground before the courts can act, and it can be hard to undo some of those actions, even if the courts end up concluding that they were unlawful.
The glue that holds the constitutional structure together is not just law, it's norms. And if the norms are ignored, if the executive branch with a complicit Congress simply says, we don't need to pay attention to what the law says or what the courts say unless we agree with it, the idea that the rule of law and that the democracy and the republic can survive that is a very scary thing.
Or when you have this like stalemate between the courts and the White House, if we get to that point, you can imagine easily a lot of turmoil that would actually show up in the markets, show up in the economy. People will stop wanting to invest here.
Because even if you are hardcore MAGA and you think Donald Trump is a benevolent authoritarian, there may come a time where the next leader with authoritarian leanings is, from your perspective, not so benevolent. A benevolent dictatorship is one with which you agree. The problem is nobody ever gets a benevolent dictator all the time. And so if Americans want to push back against authoritarianism, they need to stand up and be willing to say, I oppose authoritarianism, even if it might be producing the short-term results that I desire. Short-term results are not worth long-term descent into authoritarianism.